No one walks around wearing a sign that says I'm a fool. Yet foolishness is written all over us in the unconscious patterns we repeat, the way we carry ourselves, the subtle signals we send without realizing. Machiavelli taught us to look beyond words and intentions. He looked into behavior, into the habits that silently betray the weak. A fool doesn't just make mistakes. He lives inside a cycle of illusions, believing that kindness alone earns respect, that explaining himself exhaustively will shield him from criticism, that quick pleasures outweigh long-term strategy. But the world is far harsher than fairy tales. It rewards impact, not intentions. It respects power, not excuses. From the very first moment you enter a room, you are either seen as a threat or dismissed as an afterthought, and the difference is written in the invisible language of habits and presence. In this video, we will uncover the 6 unmistakable signs of a foolish person, the traits that quietly undermine influence and invite failure. These aren't just bad habits. They are slow poisons draining your potential and handing your power to sharper minds. If you find yourself defending too loudly, chasing fleeting pleasures, or revealing too much about your inner world, you are already playing a dangerous game. But knowledge is the first weapon. By understanding these traps, you gain the chance to break free from the chains of naivety and transform yourself into a figure of silent command, unshakable presence, and strategic mastery. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn is not just a warning. It's the difference between being forgotten and being feared, between drifting through life and ruling it. This is the art of seeing yourself with brutal honesty, the kind of self-awareness that cuts through delusion and lights the path to true power. Are you ready to face the truth that most won't admit? Because power waits for no one, and the fool pays the price every time. In a world obsessed with virtue signaling and surface-level niceties, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that good intentions alone earn respect and trust. The foolish man lives inside this dangerous illusion. He wears his kindness like armor, convinced that as long as his heart is pure, admiration and loyalty will naturally follow. But Machiavelli's cold truth cuts through this fantasy. The world doesn't care about your intentions. It judges you by the impact you leave behind. Effort is meaningless without results. Saying "I meant well" won't shield you from the harsh realities of power and influence. Imagine a man standing in the battlefield insisting he's a good person while his enemies quietly take ground around him. No amount of moral posturing will save him from being crushed. The foolish cling to the belief that their virtue grants them immunity, yet every day sharp men seize opportunities, build empires, and command respect by being effective, not nice. This gap between intention and impact is a chasm where countless dreams drown. The pain of being overlooked despite your goodness is real, a bitter pill that many swallow in silence. But the world doesn't reward kindness unless it's backed by strength and results. This truth demands a brutal awakening. If you want power, you must shift your focus from how you feel about yourself to what you do in the world. Your legacy is written not in your motives, but in the footprints you leave. This isn't cynicism, it's survival. The moment you confuse morality with competence, you hand your power to those who understand that in the ruthless game of life, only impact matters. Will you stay trapped in comforting delusions, or will you face this truth and start building real influence? The choice defines your fate. There is a dangerous misconception that volume equals strength, that shouting louder will silence doubt and assert dominance. The foolish man lives trapped in this illusion, desperately defending himself with words, explanations, and endless justifications. When accused or challenged, he doesn't pause or reflect. He explodes, oversharing every detail, fearing the slightest misinterpretation, like a drowning man clings to air. But Machiavelli reveals a harsher truth. This noisy defense is not power, it is weakness exposed. The need to constantly explain reveals a fragile ego built not on true confidence, but on how others perceive him. In this frantic effort to control narratives, the fool becomes painfully predictable. Predictability is the enemy of power because it invites manipulation and exploitation. Imagine a lion cornered by sheep. Does it waste energy pleading for understanding? No. It commands silence and respect through presence alone. The fool, however, mistakes explanation for salvation, pouring his vulnerabilities into words that only deepen his wounds. Every defense becomes an admission of insecurity, every clarification a spotlight on his fears. The world does not reward those who beg to be understood. It respects those who let mystery and silence do the heavy lifting. The emotional exhaustion of this constant self-justification drains the fool's energy and erodes his influence. He chases approval in every conversation, convinced that if only people knew his real story, they would respect him. But power lies not in being known, but in being unpredictable. This desperate need to explain is a trap. Once you step into it, you give away control and invite others to pull your strings. To survive and dominate, one must learn the art of restraint, the strength of silence, and the patience to wait for the right moment to strike. The loudest voice is rarely the strongest. Often it is the most vulnerable. Will you continue shouting into the void, or will you learn to wield silence as your greatest weapon? The foolish man is a prisoner of immediate gratification, endlessly chasing fleeting pleasures that dull his senses and weaken his resolve. He mistakes the seductive rush of dopamine, the quick hit of validation, the allure of comfort, the lure of fleeting excitement for true enjoyment. But what feels good in the moment often comes at a devastating cost, the slow erosion of power and potential. Machiavelli's wisdom cuts deep. While the fool indulges in ease, the strategist embraces discomfort, knowing that growth demands sacrifice. Pleasure without discipline is a siren song that lures men into complacency, blinding them to the long game. The fool lets his feelings dictate every move, acting on whims and avoiding pain like a child dodging a storm. He believes that what feels right must be right, ignoring that unchecked emotions are the enemy of control. In contrast, the powerful learn to master their urges, using desire as a tool rather than a master. They understand that true power requires delayed gratification, strategic patience, and sometimes painful choices. To sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term dominance is the hallmark of those who rise above mediocrity. Yet the fool remains enslaved, his appetite ruling him, not the other way around. He seeks quick highs over sustained growth, comfort over challenge, popularity over respect. This addiction is a slow poison, dulling the mind and trapping the soul in a cycle of distraction and weakness. The pain of unrealized potential festers beneath the surface, a quiet scream, muffled by momentary pleasures. The world belongs to those who can endure discomfort, who can resist temptation, who can plan for victory rather than chase fleeting joy. Will you continue to be sedated by pleasure, or will you rise to master it? The path to power is paved with discipline, and only those willing to pay the price will claim the throne. There is a deadly vulnerability in laying all your cards on the table, in believing that complete transparency is a sign of honesty and strength. The foolish man wears his heart, his plans, his doubts, and his fears, openly mistaking openness for authenticity. But Machiavelli warns us that true power thrives in mystery and calculated opacity. People respect and fear what they cannot fully grasp. When your enemies and allies alike can read your every move, your every weakness, you surrender the invisible armor that guards your influence. Revealing too much is not courage. It is naivety, a quiet surrender to those waiting to exploit your vulnerabilities. Imagine a chess player who shows his strategy before the first move. He does not win. He is defeated before the game begins. The world does not honor those who expose themselves without discretion. Your mystique, the unreadable parts of your persona, are the silent weapons that keep others guessing, cautious and respectful. To be fully known is to be fully controlled. The fool fails to see this and often justifies his openness with "I have nothing to hide," not realizing that what he hides is exactly what shields him from being crushed. This is not deceit, it is self-preservation. Every revelation chips away at your power until nothing remains but an open book, vulnerable to every predator. Power demands secrets, calculated layers that protect your true intentions and preserve your advantage. Without them, you become a target, exposed and defenseless. This is the fine line between transparency and self-destruction. Will you risk surrendering your strength by exposing your entire map, or will you learn to guard your moves with silence and strategy? The choice is a matter of survival and dominance. The world is full of men who wear the mask of power but lack its core. They mimic the posture of confidence, copy the routines of success, and adorn themselves with symbols of status, luxury watches, flashy cars, carefully curated images, believing these trappings will cloak them in strength. But Machiavelli exposes this charade for what it is: a fatal mistake. Power is not a costume you put on. It is an instinct forged in solitude, sharpened through pain, and refined by relentless observation. The foolish man who imitates without understanding becomes a hollow echo, a wolf in sheep's clothing, destined to be devoured by those who embody true force. This superficial performance is a trap, a cruel illusion that blinds him to his vulnerabilities and lulls him into complacency. He craves the appearance of a lion but lacks the cunning of a fox, and in the unforgiving arena of power, appearances without substance are suicidal. Imagine a soldier who dresses in armor but never trains for battle. His armor offers no protection against real threats. True strategy is born from deep self-discipline and an unyielding willingness to endure isolation and hardship. It cannot be borrowed or faked. It must be earned in the crucible of experience. Yet the fool avoids this path, choosing instead to play roles, to perform tricks, and to charm his way through life. But all roles eventually unravel, and all masks fall away under pressure. The world sees beyond the facade, and when it does, the fool stands naked and exposed, an easy prey for the ruthless. Will you be content to wear the costume of power, or will you cultivate the instincts that command it? This choice is the difference between fleeting admiration and enduring dominion. One of the quietest killers of power is the comfort of echo chambers, surrounding yourself with people who only say yes, who laugh at your jokes, validate your ego, and never challenge your ideas. The foolish man seeks this cozy reality not because it fuels growth, but because it cushions his fragile self-esteem. He craves approval over truth, comfort over confrontation, and in doing so builds a kingdom of mirrors that reflects only what he wants to see. Machiavelli warned rulers to shun flatterers, and this wisdom extends to anyone seeking real power. Flattery blinds, it dulls perception, and it creates a dangerous illusion of security. When no one dares to speak uncomfortable truths, the fool's weaknesses go unchecked, festering beneath a false sense of strength. The moment real pressure arrives, the moment a sharper, more ruthless opponent steps in, this fragile empire shatters like glass. An army of yes-men does not defend you. It leaves you vulnerable and isolated. It's the difference between being surrounded by loyal warriors who sharpen your edge and being trapped among sycophants who dull your senses. The pain of betrayal often comes disguised in smiles and empty praise. The fool never sees it coming because he chooses safety over challenge, ease over growth. But power belongs to those brave enough to invite dissent, to face discomfort, and to embrace the harsh mirror of honest counsel. The echo chamber is a velvet trap, a soft prison that suffocates potential and dooms ambition. Will you remain cocooned in comforting lies, or will you break free, inviting challenge and discomfort that forge true strength? The path to power demands warriors, not mirrors. Choose your company wisely, for it will shape your destiny. True power demands mastery over one's emotions, but the foolish man wears his feelings like a cracked mask, fragile, revealing, and endlessly shifting. At the slightest insult, rejection, or delay, he reacts instantly, his soul laid bare for all to see. This impulsive outburst is not a sign of authenticity, but of deep insecurity. Machiavelli understood that the powerful are not those who feel less, but those who control their feelings with surgical precision. Emotional reactivity is the enemy of command because it hands control to external forces. The fool is a prisoner of every slight and every praise, bouncing between pride and despair like a leaf in the wind. His volatile nature becomes a beacon inviting attack and exploitation. Imagine a fortress with crumbling walls. Every uncontrolled reaction chips away at the defenses until collapse is inevitable. The strong man waits, absorbs insult without flinching, and chooses when to respond, turning patience into a weapon. He understands that silence can kill, and that reaction often fuels the fire of his enemies. The fool confuses raw emotion with truth, believing that honest expression is strength when in fact it is his greatest vulnerability. This emotional undressing strips away the illusion of power and exposes weakness that rivals and predators will mercilessly exploit. The pain of living at the mercy of your feelings is a constant torment, a relentless storm that erodes confidence and influence. To rise above, one must cultivate a calm core, an internal pause that shields against impulsive reaction and turns feeling into calculated action. Will you continue to wear your insecurity like a mask for the world to see? Or will you forge emotional discipline, the hallmark of true command? The battlefield is not won by those who shout loudest in anger, but by those who strike with cold, deliberate force. Many fools mistake power for a personality trait, a loud voice, an aggressive stance, or an alpha swagger. They believe power is about being dominant, cool, or assertive, reducing centuries of strategic evolution to mere mannerisms and posturing. But Machiavelli's brutal truth reveals that true power is not a performance. It is an invisible force, an unreadable presence that unsettles without uttering a word. Power is felt, not seen. The fool, desperate for control, barks louder when ignored, demands respect in every room, and confuses compliance for genuine reverence. Yet this loudness only exposes his insecurity and lack of true influence. The powerful know that domination comes from subtlety and mystery, from the chilling uncertainty they cast on others. It's the cold air in the room that shifts the balance of power, not the volume of one's voice. The fool's confusion between image and force makes him predictable and easy to manipulate. His loud persona is a beacon for rivals who recognize the bluff beneath. Meanwhile, the genuinely powerful command silence and space, moving with calculated restraint and letting others wrestle with their uncertainty. This misunderstanding is not just a personal failing, it's a fatal flaw that undermines every attempt at authority. The fool mistakes personality for power, forgetting that influence is crafted through strategy, discipline, and the art of invisibility. The hunger to be seen as strong blinds him to the reality that true strength is often quiet, deliberate, and untouchable. Will you continue to mistake loudness for dominance? Or will you learn to embody power as a strategic force, one that commands respect without demanding it? The difference between a blusterer and a sovereign is the difference between noise and consequence. In a culture that praises openness and vulnerability, the foolish man believes that exposing his deepest wounds will garner sympathy, connection, and strength. Yet Machiavelli's harsh wisdom warns otherwise. Bleeding in public is not bravery. It is a surrender to your enemies. True strength is not the absence of pain, but the ability to carry it without revealing the cracks. Every scar you reveal becomes a target for those waiting to exploit your weakness. The fool, in his desperate search for acceptance, lays bare his traumas, fears, and doubts, naively believing that transparency builds trust. But this vulnerability does not soften hearts, it sharpens weapons. Enemies and opportunists take careful note of your emotional triggers, your fears, and your pain, storing them like ammunition for future attacks. The powerful understand that secrecy is a form of armor. It protects the soul and preserves the illusion of invincibility. Healing happens in silence, in the shadows, away from prying eyes, where pain can be transformed into resilience rather than spectacle. The fool's public confessions become a broadcast of weakness, a siren call that invites manipulation and disrespect. The agony of feeling exposed, misunderstood, and undermined festers beneath this reckless openness. It is a slow death of influence, draining confidence and shattering reputations. To wield power, one must learn the discipline of discretion, the art of revealing only what strengthens and concealing what debilitates. Vulnerability chosen and controlled becomes a bridge to connection, but vulnerability that floods the streets leaves you defenseless in the battlefield of life. Will you continue to broadcast your wounds to the world, or will you guard your pain like the precious secret it is? The path to true strength is not through public bleeding, but through silent endurance and calculated revelation. Forgiveness is often mistaken for nobility, the virtue that elevates the spirit and wins respect. Yet, Machiavelli's piercing insight reveals that forgiveness, when handed out carelessly, becomes the most dangerous weakness of all. The foolish man believes that by letting go of grudges and overlooking betrayals, He is taking the moral high ground, earning peace and admiration. But in the brutal arena of power, such mercy is seen not as strength, but as invitation, a silent permission for others to test boundaries again and again. Each forgiven slight, each unpunished betrayal chips away at authority, signaling vulnerability that predators instinctively exploit. The fool's mercy is not a calculated strategy, it is fear masquerading as kindness. Machiavelli urges rulers to punish betrayal ruthlessly and publicly, not merely for justice, but as a deterrent that maintains order and respect. Without such decisive action, the line between loyalty and opportunism blurs, and the fool's world crumbles under the weight of repeated deception. Imagine a fortress with gates left wide open. No walls can stand against an army that knows the door is unguarded. The pain of betrayal becomes unbearable, yet it is self-inflicted through misguided forgiveness. To be strong is not to harbor endless resentment, but to wield mercy as a weapon dispensed with precision and purpose. The power to forgive must be earned and timed, never granted as a default. Will you continue to let your kindness be mistaken for weakness? Or will you embrace the brutal truth that sometimes mercy is the deadliest trap? The path to lasting power is paved with ruthless discernment, where forgiveness is a calculated move, not a reflex. Only those who master this balance command true respect and survival. Loyalty is often romanticized as an unshakable bond, a virtue that defines strength and honor. Yet the foolish man confuses blind loyalty with wisdom, pouring his time, energy, and trust into those who neither deserve it nor reciprocate it. He chases relationships that drain him, friends who mock him. Behind closed doors, lovers who offer scraps of affection, relatives who reach out only when they need something. He clings to the hope that these people will change, that his devotion will be rewarded, that love and loyalty alone can rewrite reality. But Machiavelli exposes this as strategic blindness. True loyalty is a currency exchanged for power and benefit, not a sacrificial act that erodes your own foundation. While the fool invests in illusions, his own goals wither unattended, his talents squandered on those who offer no real alliance. Imagine a gambler who bets everything on losing hands, refusing to fold because of misplaced hope. His kingdom is built on sand, vulnerable to every storm. The pain of betrayal becomes inevitable because it was invited by ignorance and denial. The wise man asks a simple question before binding himself. What does this alliance bring to my table? Loyalty is not charity, it is a calculated strategy, a tool to build strength and influence. Without discerning where and with whom to invest your loyalty, you become a prisoner to others' agendas, a pawn in games you never chose to play. The agony of wasted energy, broken trust, and stalled growth cuts deeper than any external attack. Will you continue to scatter your loyalty like seeds on barren ground, or will you cultivate it where it can truly grow? The path to power demands ruthless clarity in relationships. Only those who serve your ascent deserve your allegiance. Anything less is self-destruction disguised as devotion. In the theater of life, many fools perform a tragic role, that of the entitled victim, convinced that hard work alone guarantees success and fairness. They labor tirelessly, believe in the justice of their efforts, and expect the world to reward them accordingly. Yet when recognition fails to arrive, frustration and bitterness consume them. Machiavelli shatters this comforting illusion. The world does not operate on merit or fairness. It operates on power, leverage, and influence. The fool's cries of, "I deserve this," and "I've worked hard" echo uselessly in an arena ruled by calculated advantage. Blaming society, luck, or others for their lack of success, the fool remains trapped in passivity, refusing to adapt or fight for their place. This mindset is not optimism, it is negligence, a dangerous surrender to the belief that effort alone is a shield. Imagine a warrior who refuses to sharpen his sword, believing his courage should be enough to win battles. His downfall is inevitable. The world rewards those who bend the rules, who manipulate perceptions, who seize opportunities with ruthless precision, not those who lament injustice. The toxic entitlement blinds the fool to the necessity of strategy, alliances, and timing. It drains motivation and fuels resentment, creating a vicious cycle of stagnation and defeat. The pain of invisibility and repeated failure festers silently beneath this entitlement, fueling despair and isolation. To break free, one must abandon illusions of fairness and embrace the brutal reality that power is neither given nor earned, it is taken. Will you cling to the myth of merit, or will you rise above learning to wield influence and build leverage? The difference between victory and defeat lies in understanding that success demands more than effort. It demands mastery of the game. In a world where perception often becomes reality, the foolish man makes a devastating mistake. He disregards his appearance and underestimates its power. He convinces himself that what lies beneath is what truly matters, neglecting the undeniable truth that humans are wired to judge within seconds. He dresses carelessly, ignores the subtleties of posture and tone, and mocks those who invest in their image. But Machiavelli understood the brutal calculus of appearances. Your outward presentation is the first battlefield where power is won or lost. Imagine walking into a room and being sized up instantly by everyone present. Your clothes, your demeanor, your energy send signals louder than any words. The fool's neglect leaves him vulnerable to quick dismissal and silent scorn, no matter how brilliant or capable he may be. This failure to control perception is a self-inflicted wound that corrodes influence and credibility. Power is often the art of illusion. Managing how others see you shapes the reality you command. To ignore appearance is to cede control to others' judgments, allowing them to box you into stereotypes and underestimate your potential. The pain of being overlooked, misunderstood, or misjudged because of sloppy presentation is a quiet agony the fool barely acknowledges. It's a constant battle lost before it even begins. But the wise man knows that image is not superficial vanity. It is strategic armor. It is the language you speak before you utter a single word, the first impression that colors every interaction. Will you continue to ignore the message your appearance sends, or will you harness its power to shape your destiny? The difference between being remembered and forgotten, feared or dismissed, often begins with how you show up to the world. In a desperate attempt to be liked by all, the foolish man sacrifices his own values, dilutes his presence, and becomes invisible. He fears conflict, avoids drawing lines, and softens every stance to keep the peace. But Machiavelli's piercing insight exposes this pursuit of universal approval as nothing short of suicidal softness. Power is never neutral. It demands polarity, a clear choice to be feared or loved, but never both simultaneously. The moment you try to please everyone, you betray your own authenticity and weaken your influence. This endless quest for approval is a betrayal of self, a slow erasure of identity that leaves you forgotten and powerless. Imagine a flame that flickers weakly, unable to burn bright because it's smothered by compromise. The fool's kindness without boundaries invites exploitation, turning goodwill into weakness. The pain of being overlooked, taken for granted, and dismissed gnaws quietly beneath the surface, unnoticed by the fool too enamored with being liked to see it. Machiavelli warns that the prince who chooses love over fear risks losing both. True power requires standing firm, embracing discomfort, and accepting that some will despise you, and that is the price of respect. The courage to be disliked by some is the defining mark of those who command. Will you continue to chase empty applause from the crowd, or will you summon the strength to embrace polarity and carve your own path? The battlefield of power is unforgiving. Only those who wield clear, uncompromising force rise above the noise. This is the painful, liberating truth. To be powerful, you must be willing to be hated by many to be truly respected by a few. There is a subtle but destructive hunger that plagues the foolish man, the craving for praise. Any praise, regardless of its source or worth. He eagerly collects compliments from the lazy, the jealous, and the disloyal, mistaking their shallow applause for true validation. This endless need to be noticed blinds him to the quality of the feedback he seeks, trapping him in a cycle of vanity and false security. Machiavelli's ruthless wisdom teaches that not all praise is created equal. The roar of a lion's approval carries weight. The bleating of sheep is meaningless noise. The fool ignores this critical distinction, failing to understand that praise from those who fear confrontation or lack power only serves to keep him comfortable, complacent, and stagnant. He broadcasts his ideas to unchallenging audiences, posts for empty likes and brags for superficial attention, feeding a fragile ego starved for recognition. Yet this hollow applause is a trap. It anesthetizes ambition and stifles growth. The pain of being applauded but not truly seen eats away at the soul, a quiet torment hidden behind the facade of confidence. True power requires seeking counsel and validation from those who elevate you, challenge your limits, and push you toward excellence. The wise man does not settle for easy praise. He demands the honest truth from those who have earned his respect. Will you continue to chase the empty echoes of false validation? Or will you raise your standards and surround yourself with voices that forge rather than flatter? The path to mastery is paved with uncomfortable truths, not easy compliments. Only those who dare to listen to harsh feedback rise above the crowd and claim lasting greatness. The foolish man approaches power like a passing fad, a quick trick to try on a costume to wear briefly before moving on. He watches a few videos, repeats a few phrases, copies body language hacks, and convinces himself he has unlocked the secrets of influence. But Machiavelli's profound truth reveals the stark reality. Power is not a game or a performance. It is a relentless operating system that governs every move you make. It demands constant vigilance, ruthless self-reflection, and unyielding discipline. There are no shortcuts or hacks that can replace years of pruning weaknesses, sharpening instincts, and cultivating strategic patience. The fool's cosplay of power is doomed to fail, a fragile facade that shatters under pressure. Imagine a master craftsman who skips apprenticeships, rushing to display his work before his skills are forged. His creations crumble and his reputation is destroyed. True power grows silently and invisibly through sustained effort and sacrifice. It is the sum of countless unseen battles fought in solitude, the slow honing of instincts and the fires of experience. The pain of realizing that quick fixes do not last can be brutal, a wake-up call that exposes all the delusions one has clung to. The world rewards those who commit fully, who treat power as a way of life, not a fleeting trend. Will you continue to dabble in shallow mimicry, or will you embrace the disciplined grind of true mastery? The throne is reserved for those who endure, who sacrifice the ease of instant gratification for the rigors of relentless growth. This is the unforgiving law of power. It is an operating system, not a costume, and only the truly committed can wield it with lasting authority. Foolishness doesn't strike all at once. It creeps in inch by inch, cloaked in comfort, kindness, and soft illusions. The fool believes that if he is kind to everyone, if he never offends the world, will spare him. He confuses compassion with immunity, softness with safety. But Machiavelli's unforgiving gaze sees through this delusion. Kindness without boundaries invites exploitation and breeds weakness. The fool says yes when he means no, bails others out, but never himself apologizes for offenses he didn't commit, all in the name of peace. Yet with every concession, he hands over more power, more control. People do not respect a man who allows himself to be used. They quietly categorize him as available, soft, and disposable. The pain of this invisible erosion is profound, a slow bleed that drains confidence, ambition, and ultimately survival. The world does not forgive weakness. It only delays punishment until the fool is too weak to defend himself. Meanwhile, the truly powerful understand that kindness is a weapon when wielded strategically, given selectively, not expected. It is a bait that lures opponents into underestimating you, a tool to disarm while maintaining control. The fool's tragic flaw is his failure to see kindness as power, not weakness. This blindness leads to a lifetime of betrayal, disappointment, and invisibility. Will you continue to walk this path of soft surrender, or will you learn to weaponize kindness, to wield it with ruthless precision? The difference between survival and destruction often hinges on this subtle mastery. Kindness without boundaries is a trap. Kindness with strategy is a shield. Choose wisely, for your future depends on it. The most powerful lesson from Machiavelli's insights on foolishness is that good intentions and surface-level kindness are not enough to command respect or achieve lasting influence. In life, what truly matters is your impact, the results you produce, the boundaries you set, and the control you maintain over your own narrative. Emotional discipline, strategic patience, and the ability to wield kindness selectively are the real keys to power, not loud defenses, empty words, or blind loyalty. To avoid falling into the trap of foolishness, you must learn to master yourself. First, control your impulses, guard your vulnerabilities, and surround yourself with honest voices who challenge rather than flatter you. Understand that the world is not a fair place. It rewards those who take initiative and build leverage, not those who wait for merit to be recognized. Appearance and perception matter deeply. How you present yourself shapes how others treat you. Most importantly, embrace the uncomfortable truth that you cannot please everyone. And true respect often comes with a price, being willing to stand firm, even when you risk being disliked. This is not about cynicism, but about realistic self-empowerment. If you want to thrive in any area of life, career, relationships, or personal growth, you must shift from passive hope to active strategy. Take responsibility for your influence, cultivate your mystery, and act decisively. The road to true power and success is paved with self-awareness, calculated restraint, and relentless action. Don't settle for being a bystander in your own life. If you found these truths valuable, hit the subscribe button for more insights that challenge conventional wisdom and empower your journey. Share this video or podcast with someone who needs to hear this message, because transformation begins when we dare to face the hard truths about ourselves.